Designer Garden is proudly brought to you by Wonder and Effecto.
Welcome to Designer Garden. I'm Andre Bimre. Today's episode, we are on the northwest side of Johannesburg, a newly built home. So new, in fact, that there's building rubble everywhere. This is going to be a challenge in cleaning this up. There's still cement and bricks and all sorts of things, but we'll get that cleaned up. Now, the kind of things we have to work with, it's a very narrow area. It's quite a long area. It's in the back of the house, so kind of kitchen garden area. We've got a very stark retaining wall that needs to be softened, and I'm sure that will pose a few challenges for Tim as well. The soil in this area is quite heavy, it's quite compacted, so it looks like there's quite a high clay content, but we've got the products to break that down, and we can certainly solve that issue. But before we do anything, let's go and meet the homeowner. Tim is with him already. Let's find out what they want to do. Now, that building site we call a garden outside belongs to Dr. Queenie. Dr. Queenie, thanks for having us. What is it that you want Abacus Gardens to do for you?
Well, we have a place here that almost looks like the Grand Canyon at the back.
Yes, it does.
Yes, and we want to transform this house. We are supporting gardening both front and back, but at the back we've just asked Abacus to use their expertise, experience in this arena to guide us what we must have.
Okay.
Dr. Queenie, I had a walk outside before we came in here into your beautiful kitchen, and you know, the area outside is directly outside your kitchen and your informal dining room. So I was thinking, you know, how would you feel about us doing sort of a gourmet herb garden for you back there?
Yes, well, that would speak directly to one of the things that we enjoy most in this family. Gardening is part of what keeps us sane.
Yeah, it does.
Yes, and this area being just outside of the kitchen and where the kids and us will be spending most of the time is an area that's very close to us. And so the gourmet herbal garden that would be just right, but it must have the right herbs.
Okay, well, I prepared myself a little bit for my meeting with you today, and I brought with just a couple of herbs that I thought you may want to smell. If you just take a bit of rosemary. What do you think of that? Do you like it?
That's intoxicating.
And that's a bit of basil.
Beautiful.
You're okay with that? You know, when it comes to smell, it's quite important that, you know, it's something that you like with a herb garden. I'm not a big fan of fennel, and I would never put fennel in my own garden, but most people love the smell of fennel.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So it's quite a personal thing, and I think we're going to try and do something here for you that you'll be able to use in your day-to-day cooking.
Yes.
So is there any particular meal that you really like?
Well, lamb is roast lamb curry.
Okay.
Okay, well there we go. That's easy for us.
Well,
Definitely
there's lots of
rosemary.
ideas.
Yeah, rosemary. Yep. We can do some chili for you. We can do coriander for you. Maybe see if we can find a curry bush. So, you know, a bit of shopping around to make sure that we can cater for
Maybe
your...
some cardamom pods.
Well, now you're making that list a little bit.
Absolutely.
But I think this is going to be a lot of fun. It is a challenging area out there. It is a building site, as you mentioned, the Grand Canyon of note.
Yes.
But I think
I'm going to enjoy this.
you're going to see me.
I love the cooking part.
We can
We've
see
got the
that.
kitchen to support it.
Absolutely.
Yes, yeah. But if it's anywhere near what you are saying, Tim, then I'm sure it's something that the whole family will enjoy.
Excellent. Well, Dr. Queenie, thank you very much. We're going to go off. Tim's going to go and get the plants and get his team in, and we're going to get straight ahead and work.
Yes, there's
Thank
lots
you.
of work to be done to get the place just ready to be worked.
No problem. We've got the tools.
Thank you, Dr. Queenie.
Thank you very much.
So it's over to the Abacus Design Office, where the team puts pen to paper. Their mission is to work past the constraints of this area to produce something good.
Tim, today's garden, you've never had this happen to you before, where a client says to you, you know what, I trust you so much, go mad.
Yeah, clients normally have an opinion.
Absolutely.
They normally know what they like, what they don't like, but the great thing with Dr. Queenie is he's just said, Tim, here's a space, do with it what you think best. And that's great. Any designer likes that.
I'm sure you do. So what have you done?
Well, we decided on a herb garden.
Okay.
And you know, as we were working with the Abacus design team, we realized there's few things as satisfying as stepping out of your back door, walking into your herb garden, having lavender brush against your leg, and then picking off some herbs to be used in your
I'm
your
nodding
dinner.
because that's my thing. That's my thing.
It feels good, doesn't it? It's a real
Absolutely.
earthy experience. And you know, herb gardens, they're very exciting because they involve all five senses. You know, you've got the visual excitement of the flowers, the leaves. You know, if you break off a piece of rosemary, I mean, that smell just bursts forth. I mean, it's a great smell in a
And
herb
of course,
garden.
it triggers memories.
It does. It triggers memories as well. So it's a very active garden. Everybody in the family can get involved with it. And we've chosen it specifically because it's at the back door. So it's easy to access from the kitchen.
But you've designed this to look like a courtyard more than a garden as such. I mean,
Well, you know, you want to be able to access the herbs. So you don't want your
Absolutely.
flower beds to be too large and then you can't reach the herbs and you have to trample on herbs to get to the back. So we've created a very formal herb garden because it is a very long rectangular space, and centered as you come out the back door, we have this gazebo, and it's a centerway creating two halves to the herb garden. It's basically got an east-west axis, and at either end we've also got a water feature.
that's very nice. And of course, that box effect that will raise the bed, making the herbs completely accessible.
Absolutely, which is great. You know, you don't have to bend down, get on your hands and knees to pick those herbs out of the garden. They're easy to access. They're all about half a meter off the ground. And yeah, that makes it a very functional space as well. I mean, you're not going to kick a ball around in the area. You know, it's really
Sure.
where you can walk in between the herbs, and whether it's the lavender or the rosemary edge, either way, you're constantly involved with different smells and plants.
I'm chomping at the bit. I'm really keen to get started on this.
It's a very exciting space. You're going to see there's going to be quite a few surprises in this garden. And yeah, I think it's going to be awesome. We've had a lot of fun with it.
Now, I do know there's a lot to get started with. There's a lot of preparation to be
There
done.
is.
So let's get going.
Excellent. Let's go for it.
After the break, the team tackles the task of reconditioning the soil to bring some life back into it. And Tim talks about several types of herbs suitable for this garden.
You know, gourmet gardens are so exciting, but it's more than just what you can eat. There's other purposes to herbs as well.
Welcome back to Design a Garden. The soil in this space presents a huge problem and needs immediate attention. There's a lot of rubble, rocks and cement that the builders have left behind, all of which needs to go before the soil preparation can begin. Once this has happened, the guys can then give the ground a thorough working over. As one group prepares the ground, other members of the team measure out the areas for the meter-high cement planter boxes. These are critical to the design, as their added height makes the herbs and vegetables easily accessible. The garden needs a lot of compost, and this forms a major part of the soil preparation. So the guys bring in heaps. Compost benefits the soil by improving drainage and moisture absorption. It also provides nutrients for the growing plants. And with the arrival of the edible plants, the gourmet garden becomes a reality.
The Abacus design team have chosen over 100 herbs to include in this gourmet garden, and it's really been a tough choice for me to decide which are my favorites. But my top favorite, without a shadow of a doubt, is this black pearl capsicum. It's chilly. I love it for so many reasons, primarily the color of the leaves. You know, most of your garden's green, and this black colored toned leaf is just great. Also like the purple lilac colored flowers. But have a look at these awesome chilies. They're pearl shaped, that's the name. And of course they're pretty hot, so be careful when using them in your cooking. Also love in my own cooking to use basil. Basil is an annual, which means you've got to plant it in spring or early summer, and it'll pretty much be available throughout the summer, but it doesn't like cold weather, and so you do have to plant it every summer. Rosemary is great too. It's awesome in cooking, but we're going to use it around the water features as box hedges. We're going to trim it beautifully into a box hedge. It is evergreen. It is around all year round, so it's perennial, and I think every herb garden should have one. I always use lavender in my herb gardens. If you crush the leaves, the smell is just awesome. Now you're probably asking yourself, why on earth
is he's sitting with conifers behind him. Conifers are not typically found in herb gardens, but if you go back in folklore, you'll see that conifers, junipers in particular, were used extensively as part of religious rituals. And last year when I was in Tibet, as you walked around the monasteries, you'd often see the smoke from junipers just wafting up through the air. So it's a great option for structure in the garden as well.
This garden plan with its structured look unfolds perfectly as the planter boxes are marked out and the flagstones are laid down as paths around the planting areas. These pathways will make picking the produce that much easier. The water features are a design masterstroke. These stylish modern fiberglass structures are focal points on either side of the garden and, when all is in place, will help provide a soothing ambiance to the garden itself. With the spaces for the planter boxes marked out, team prepares the foundations for these constructions. Meter-high concrete boxes for the herbs, fruit and vegetables. There you have it, garden boxes with wrought iron archways for added effect.
Tim, your team has moved. All the construction's done. That's quick, man.
It has rushed through, really it has. It's been great. We've had 6 teams working on different aspects of the project, and construction's nearly done, which is great.
So you've done all the soil prep, the ground's all level, you've worked in a lot of compost?
Absolutely, we've checked the water flows to make sure that if there's a heavy rain that the water runs around the property and away.
Okay, right. And of course, I see you've planted up the retaining wall already?
We have. That looks amazingly different. Because that's like painting a wall of a room. You know, we've put in the lamium as a plant that can trail over the wall.
And that's going to soften that wall quite a lot.
Absolutely. Oh, it already does, don't you think?
Absolutely. It certainly does. So the main structure's in place, which is basically the bones and the skeleton. So now we're going to do the little flesh.
It's time for the softer things, for the plants to come in. So you can see the wrought iron work is all in place. The flagstones have all been laid as well. We've got our water features in place and the planters all ready to be planted. And we're going to put some lemon trees in the planters.
Okay.
They're standard lemons, which is great because then we can maintain them in a smaller size.
So you're going to keep them to a...
We aren't going to quite get them into a lollipop shape, but they're going to keep that nice sort of lollipop feel to them. The great thing about them, they're currently fruiting, so they look good. And then we're also going to plant the smaller herbs around the bottom of the planter box again, so that they're easy to access for cooking purposes.
Absolutely. Well, I suppose we better get the big plants in.
Yeah, it's time for those big plants to get in, so come help me, give me a hand.
Cool.
Not only decorative but edible as well, the olive trees arrive. These tall specimens are of the fruiting variety and add the needed height to an otherwise low garden perspective. The team has chosen iceberg roses both for their great decorative quality as well as for their edibility. Next in are the junipers. These are hardy and drought tolerant, and in this space they add more structure and formality to the design.
Sandra, it's a gourmet garden that we're busy preparing here, and you know how it is, everybody's going more green, they want sustainable gardens, they want organic in their food. So, you know, we don't really want to use fertilizer that's inorganic here. What do you have in mind for us?
Well, we've got the perfect solution for you. Now, planting, obviously, we first start with the foundation, give us a good base to work from.
Yeah.
So we look after the roots first.
Okay.
Strong roots give you a healthy plant. We go with bone meal, which is an organic form of superphosphate.
Okay.
All right. A couple of generous handfuls. So you're looking at about 80 to 100 grams per square meter.
Okay.
Now hold the size, it's probably half a meter. A couple of good handfuls, that will give you enough fertilizer for that.
And you put all of that at the bottom of the hole, or do you mix it into the soil as you plant?
Well, you need to start at the bottom first, because phosphates don't leach down into the soil very easily.
Okay.
So you want to start at the bottom, but also you can incorporate some around the root system. So we put some onto the soil, that's going to go back into the hole.
Okay, so really top down throughout.
Absolutely. And then, of course, we're going to be using another organic solution, which is from Wonder. We've got this composted chicken manure.
Okay.
And as you can see, it's not only composted, it's also pelletized to make it easy to handle, much less smell.
Okay, which is good.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So in this case, we're probably going to use about 150 grams per square meter.
Okay.
Now, we're not only going to put this into the hole, but once we've planted the rest of the herbs up, we're going to broadcast this across the bed as well.
Okay, so this one's going in and on top afterwards.
Correct, absolutely. And then with every plant we put in, we're going to give it a nice little handful of that.
Okay, well, let's do
Right.
it.
Well,
see
let's
how
go
this
for
works.
it. Absolutely. So, nice little
me a handful
generous
there.
sprinkling.
Put some in the soil as well.
Put some onto the soil that's going in. And then the Wonder organic
on top as well.
pellets into the soil there as well. Be generous. Here we go.
So the more the merrier, huh?
The more the merrier. Well, you know, there is a rule, but because this is organic, you can be generous with it. And you generally need to be far more generous than if you're using inorganic chemical fertilizer.
You know, sometimes you hear about fertilizer burning the plants or burning the roots.
Yes.
Is there that danger of overdoing it?
Fertilizer burns when it gets insufficient water to break down.
Okay.
Okay, so if you water it well, it will be fine. If it's completely dry, it will be fine. The problem is when you give it just enough water to just start activating, and that's when it burns.
Okay,
That's
so
when it's at its strongest.
Rule of thumb is water well.
Water well.
Okay, well, we'll
Exactly.
be sure to do that.
Absolutely. You need to be a little more concise in your
Okay, let's close it up, yeah?
The lemon
that
trees
snake
get
in.
pride of place in these planter boxes. Now adequately fertilized with Wonder bone meal and organic pellet fertilizer. Staking a newly planted tree usually only happens if the tree has a weak trunk or a limited root system. In this case, the stake acts as a support for a heavily fruited young tree. The smaller herbs and vegetables, like this Cape gooseberry, follow suit. Although the soil in these planters has been well conditioned and these plants will flourish, remember you must water your plants well after you've planted them. With 3 more planters to fill, the team gets cracking, ensuring enough fertilizer and nutrients for every plant. It's a gentle process, as these planting professionals pay great care to the handling of the seedlings. With so much left to do, the guys beaver away, planting out the other lemon trees and herbs.
One of my favorite plants to incorporate in a gourmet garden is your olive tree. Now, most of us are familiar with your wild olive, which doesn't really bear fruit worth commenting about. But what I've got here is the real Dinkum fruiting olive. It bears these beautiful black olives. It's your oleomission, and I think it's great to have in a herb garden. You can even harvest these. They bear fruit early part of the year, and as soon as they turn black, you harvest them. So instead of using the sort of common wild olive, I recommend you go with this great fruiting one. It's your black olive.
Have you tried it?
Andre, you know, I think that this is your turn.
No, you tried. They're horrible, aren't they?
I think we've got to work on this one.
The reason for that is all olives, when you harvest them, they have to be cured.
Yes, of course.
That's it.
So this one's got a bit of work needed on it, but
Absolutely.
nice and fleshy, very juicy.
Absolutely. And the birds love it.
I'm sure.
There are only a few plants left for the cement boxes. With so many plant varieties in the design, the Abacus Gardens team has chosen local as well as international ones. So there are plants for colour, others for fragrance, and lots for taste. The family will be spoiled for choice. The guys give the planters one last turning over and remove any dead heads.
You know, gourmet gardens are so exciting, but it's more than just what you can eat. There's other purposes to herbs as well. For example, they can be used for medicinal purposes. If you take mint, it's very good for digestion if it's used in tea. But I also like the decorative purpose that you get from herbs. I love this wine red stems of the spinach. You know, they grow much taller, of course, and then you get these beautiful stems, and the colors of the stems are not just the wine red, you get them in orange and yellow as well. I really do like the idea of the gooseberries. This is your Cape gooseberry, and you can take the gooseberries and actually incorporate it in ice cream. I also really like the lettuce in the garden. It's so unique. You know, we're used to buying lettuce at the shops, but to have it actually growing in your garden, going outside and picking it is great. Pansies. Unique in your salads, but of course you can also take a pansy flower, put it in an ice cube and freeze it like that, and then that'll be quite a unique way of serving up drinks. But altogether, herbs can be used for a variety of purposes, and it's really exciting as a family to get involved in your herb garden and get to know what they can do for you as a family.
We're nearing the end of the project. Most of the plants are in, and the beds are given a last professional tweak. With so many flagstones in the garden, it's important to give them one last clean to keep them looking great. But we're not done yet.
Okay, we're nearly done. Dr. Queenie's on his way and we've got to wrap this up before he gets here. But the garden is looking awesome. We've got all the focal points ready for him. The plants are planted. The gravel's about to go down and the bark chip to cover the beds as well. So we're on the home stretch, but there's just a few minutes left before he arrives. We've got some great focal points for him to enjoy. Over me, we've got this wrought iron gazebo. Directly behind me, we've got a whole line of archways. We've got a grenadillas growing over them. At the end of the symmetrical garden, at the end of the west-east axis, we've got two beautiful water features that run continuously. I really think Dr. Queenie's going to love this garden. We've got just a few minutes left before he arrives, so I better get going to wrap things up.
Coming up, the finishing touches are added, and then the big reveal.
Dr. Queenie, this is your garden. What do you think? Have Abacus delivered?
Welcome back to Design a Garden. It's been a long but rewarding project. The team plants the last of the plants, and we're just about done.
As Tim is adding the finishing touches to the hard landscaping in that part of the garden, I'm going to be adding a little finishing touch to the seedlings we've planted in this planter box. Now, just to recap, when we prepared the soil, we used bone meal. We worked that into the soil. We also worked in some granules, water retention granules from Wonder. Now, these are not only water retention granules in terms that they'll save you water, and they'll save you up to 50% of water, but they also contain nutrients, which again, it adds that life element back into the soil. You know, we keep going on about this adding life back into the soil. And having said that, we're going to be using, because we're doing seedlings, I'm using an organic fertilizer, again from Wonder, which is organically based, enriched slightly, but this is specifically formulated to help your seedlings, not only with color, with root growth, but also with the leaf growth. So it's a really nicely balanced fertilizer. Okay, now very simple. We're going to be doing about 150 grams per square meter. We don't have to measure it out that accurately, but a couple of generous handfuls and sprinkle it as we go along. So I'll do that while you watch what Tim's doing.
The gravel is the final detail, and spreading it around the garden furniture gives a sense of order to the whole garden.
Tim, how many times am I going to have to say that the Abacus team have outdone themselves? This is great.
Andre, I really like, you know, I mean, just keep saying that, it's great. You know?
That's a marvelous job, man.
It
Do you
is,
think you
thank
started
you.
with the building site?
It is a building site, and it was quite, you know, a challenge because there was builders in our way all the time. We had to protect the plants, but the final result is great. And you know, the befores when we came here, it was just rubble everywhere. So we're delighted with the result. What I'm also delighted with is this meal that Abacus and Infector have, you know, prepared for Dr. Queenie and his family to enjoy.
I'm excited about it.
No, I'm sure you are, because I've got to get out of here.
Exactly.
But you know, we've used rosemary, we've used chili, we've used basil. I've got rocket in here. I've got chives. We've used viola in the ice cubes.
That's
so,
a lovely touch.
You know, this is all from his garden, and he's going to love this, I think.
I think so.
I think you're going to love this.
Why are you leaving?
Exactly. I better get going. Andre, I think Dr. Queenie, he's going to get stuck in with this meal, so I'm getting out of here.
Tim, we'll see you soon.
See you soon.
What an interesting garden. The family will come out and enjoy a huge range of herbs. There's some very interesting vegetables in the garden. There are things like the bright light spinach with its bright red stems, yellow colored leaves. I mean, that is really interesting. Then of course, that little black pearl chili. I mean, what more do you want? You saw what the meal was prepared just from using things in this garden. I mean, that was fantastic. As a surprise to the homeowner, Abacus are going to do a 3-month maintenance contract for them, absolutely at no charge. And to help Abacus do that, Effector is going to add exactly the same fertilizer, that organic fertilizer we use from Wonder. And then I'm going to show you 2 more products which I'd like to add to the pile. This Eco Insect Control, completely natural product. This helps with things like thrifts and little leaf miners, which are hohos that really attack your vegetables. And then to make that efficient, we're using a product called Ensure. This is a wetter, it's a sticker. It helps the insecticide stick to the leaf, and it makes it so much more effective. Now, I've just heard Dr. Queenie's car pull up. Let's go and have a chat to him. I'm excited to see what he thinks about this garden. Dr. Queenie, this is your garden. What do you think? Have Abacus delivered?
It's awesome,
It's
beyond
wonderful.
what I expected.
Excellent. And what's your favorite thing?
Well, it's a herbal garden.
Yeah.
I'm a cook.
Okay.
Yeah. Lamb curry being one of the specialties that I prepare for the family. And there's enough of the herbs to choose from.
Certainly.
Yeah, so it's come out beyond what I expected.
Well, thank you for having us, and I hope you're going to enjoy your garden. Now, one other thing, that a last little surprise for you. Effecto and Abacus have prepared a meal for you.
Oh.
With using a couple of the things that are in the garden, a lot of the herbs. You must have a look. It's wonderful.
From this garden?
From this garden.
Oh, wow.
So please enjoy it.
That's beautiful.
Excellent, and thank you again.
Thank you.
And enjoy your garden.
Thank you very much.
Yes. What a transformation. The Abacus team started off with the building site, and they've certainly transformed this into a wonderful garden. I, of course, love the fact that it's an edible garden. But as they're enjoying their meal, I'm going to have my dinner. So please join us again, another Designer Garden.
Designer Garden was proudly brought to you by Wonder and Effecto.